tight on the schedule, but we're going to just keep going through because we're running a little behind and we want to make sure everyone sees all our great content. So next, we're going to welcome Kristi Faltorusso back to the stage, along with Maranda Dziekonski, the Chief Customer Officer with Fexa. And we are just getting everyone mic'd up, so we'll be welcoming them in a minute.
Well, that was an oops moment. I was just sitting here.
I know. I was like texting her and
with my 10
sweating.
Diet Coke
Thank God
cans.
Dana saw what was happening here and was kind enough to go get my friend.
Oh, I just got your text.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. You and Jay, both on my list. I won't tell you what list that is. Well, super thrilled and excited to cover this session with my dear friend Maranda. Over the past several years in our careers, we have had some professional successes. And we've had some professional misses.
Oopsies.
And yes, we can call them oopsies. Yeah. And so what we thought we would do today is spend some time sharing with you all how we assess a good fit. Now, obviously, everyone has their own list of things that they evaluate when you're looking for your next opportunity, things that you need to be there. What we see oftentimes is a lot of people make decisions, sometimes irrationally, sometimes based off of things that are driving them. It could be a leader that you feel very passionate about, who you've worked with before, has found themselves in a new organization, and you go and follow them, in which case that might not always be the best fit for you, but you're following somebody. It could be unemployment has left you in a financial situation where the driving force is that, well, I need to be able to provide for my family, and so I need to take a job. And so we recognize that there's all these factors at play, but we want to make sure that to the extent that you all can, you are taking the time to do your diligence and make sure that you find an organization that really aligns with your values, your needs, your missions. And so what I figured Maranda and I could do is share a little bit about how we assess that, given, like I said, some of our successes and some of our, as Maranda put it, oopsies.
We have stories.
So what I figured I would do is interview Maranda and have her share some of those stories and experiences and hopefully offer some advice and guidance on how you might be able to go and assess the next opportunity for you all. So I've got a couple questions for my friend. No sneak questions, so she should be prepared for our conversation today. But Maranda, how do you personally define fit? Is it about your values? Is it about leadership, role expectations, or is there something else that's driving that?
Yeah, so for me, just so you know, like how I define fit has changed over the years. What I looked for in my 20s is very different what I look for in my 40s. And also, it has changed over just the past few years from some learnings that I've had. I've learned a lot about myself and what I value over the last few years, which is great. It tells everybody it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still continue to learn about yourself. For me now, what I really value are the people I work with and the customers I serve. And when I mean the people I work with, I mean the leadership team I'm partnering with, the folks that are in my org, the customers that I'm serving. So is it a product or a solution that I'm going to be very passionate about? And I think underneath all of that is, of course, the culture of the organization. You can join a company and just love the people, but maybe they're not effective together, then that becomes a frustrating situation. Or you can join a company and be super pumped about the product, and there's no methodical nature in how the team operates. So that's my long-winded way of saying that I value a lot. And my top layer right now, and this could change in a few years, is the humans I'm working with and the problems we're solving together.
I think those are great points. I'm going to add on that because I think our lists are a lot aligned. I think as customer success leaders, one of the things that I hear a lot of folks struggle with, and it's definitely something I've struggled with in a few different roles I've held, is how customer success is viewed in the organization, right? Do they really understand what it is that we do? Do they really value it? Or is this a box that they're checking because their board advised them to do so? So I spent a lot more time now assessing how customer success is viewed and valued in the organization, and not just from my manager or the CEO, but also from all my cross-functional peers. Because we also recognize that our success is so much dependent on how others partner with us, right? Is product going to help evangelize and help include us in the roadmap when we think about innovation? Is sales going to set proper expectations? Is finance going to give me any money? All of these things are really critical to my personal success. So I think alongside of what Maranda mentioned, I'm going to also add that, because I can't be successful in my role despite all the other things if I don't have that kind of alignment.
No, you're spot on. Absolutely spot on. I have been part of organizations where CS, like, people just don't understand customer success. It's not their fault. So one of the first things I usually do when I join an organization is I make sure I do educational tours. I do lunch and learns with the organization and what CS is, what CS isn't, how we're going to adapt our mindset, the evolution we're going to make. And I try to include them all and make the entire organization part of that change. However, it is a really tall mountain to climb.
Yes.
If you join an organization and folks are not willing to participate in that, you're literally screaming into the void then.
Yeah. Yeah. So to the extent that you can, that is some really great information for you to know before you join the organization. All right, Maranda. So now I think we can agree that leadership is important, and we talked about the human side of this. So how much of company fit comes down to your direct manager versus the company as a whole?
Okay, this is where my perspective changed over the last year. I thought it was more about my direct manager. Because that's the human that, I'm going to be reporting to and is going to set my goals, and I'm going to have my one-on-ones with, and so on and so forth. They're going to judge how my performance is. While I believe all of that is true, I now have a different perspective where I think, and to be clear, I usually report to the CEO. I want to call that out. I have had one of my recent gigs, I did not. And I think a lot of culture comes from that level. And so if you are someone like myself who does report to the CEO, you can kind of check both of those boxes at the same time. If you're not, make sure you understand the founding team, how they think about culture, and really pay attention to those cues.
Yeah, I think it's a really great point. Let me ask a question. We'll make this somewhat interactive for a minute. How many of you have had a boss leave a company?
Yeah.
How many of you had somebody be layered on top of you? Right. So those are things you couldn't control when you were assessing the role. So like Maranda, again, we assess things and that evolves over time. Like you, I used to put a lot of weight into who my direct manager is. But the average tenure of a customer success leader is 18 months. Okay, so if I put all of my career eggs in that basket with one individual, that's going to change probably multiple times. I remember being in one company and having 3 different leaders in the tenure that I was there. That's crazy. So if I was really maniacally focused on my success being tied to that one person, or saying that this company is going to be a fit because of that, I'd probably be assessing a lot of the wrong things. So just take that into consideration also. I know a lot of folks will say your manager is the most important part of this and it is critical for you to have someone that you're aligned to, and I don't disagree with that. Yeah. But all of the other things that we just talked about, I would say almost are equally important. I've had mediocre managers, but a solid product and a great team and great peers. And sometimes that can offset sometimes a bad leader. So just make sure that you're looking at the entire opportunity in its totality and all of the factors that are going to impact your personal success.
I will add, I don't disagree with anything you said.
You're allowed to disagree, though.
I don't. I agree with everything you say, always.
Oh, I love that for me.
I know you do. I will say, though, if you are interviewing and you're not sure about your manager, pay attention to your gut. Even if the greater company
that is fair.
Even if the greater company is fantastic, because If that fit isn't there, but the entire other fit is there, even if that manager is only going to be there, who knows, a year, 2 years, who knows how long, it could be a very painful year or 2 years for you.
Has anyone
So
left because of a bad manager?
everyone, almost everyone has their hands
Right.
up, except
So-
Ari. I mean,
Because Ari's trying to figure out how to put both hands up. And that's the reality, right? So it's
Yeah.
not to ignore that, but it's just to remember that there's so many other things at play. So you just don't want to over-index on the fact that you might find a great manager, because that great manager isn't going to be able to carry your career success for the duration of the time you're there. All right, Miranda, let's talk about fit over time, because this obviously changes.
yes.
So do you think company fit is static, or can it change as the business evolves and you evolve?
Yeah, I think I kind of answered it a little bit, but I generally specialize in early stage to scale stage startups. So anywhere from like 5 to 50 million, that's generally my jam. And just, I want to kind of get an understanding of who we have in the audience. Who here is in startups? Like, let's just say under 20 million. What about, is anyone here like over 100 million? Okay, so we have a big mix here. If you haven't ever participated in that, let's call it 5 to 20 million journey, that company is so different at 20 million than it was at 5. And there's no shame in this game. Most companies need different leaders at different phases, and I'm very aware of that. I'm very aware of what I'm great at and what I'm not great at. You're not going to put me in a $100 or $200 million a year organization. That's not where I play, right? Just the same as you're probably not going to take somebody who is a leader at a $200 million organization and plop them in a $5 million, because they're going to be like, holy smokes, what do you mean? I have to build that tool? Because they don't have those resources anymore, right? So I think fit is not static. It depends on your leadership team, the phase of your product, the customers you're going after. A lot of companies start small and then they start going after enterprise customers. That happens a lot in startup world. And some leaders are great for SMB, but not as great for enterprise, and so on and so forth. And there could even be little things that change. You could go from being fully remote to now there is a return to office mandate and you're no longer a fit, or that is not what your goals are. And these are all things that I keep in mind.
Yeah, I think that that's super valid. How many of you have ever had your role changed? To you, not with you, right? Interesting distinction there. And then that's also something to consider. I've had a lot of different companies where my role has evolved, and although it's looked like a positive trajectory, somebody else designing my career for me doesn't work for me. So I don't maybe want to do certain jobs, right? I've been put in roles where I'm like, that's great, I'm glad that you see this skill in me and that you think I can do this work. It's not the work that I want to do. And so I think that also is something to consider, because as the company's needs evolves, they might need you to do different things. And it is also okay to say, that is not the work that I want to do. And I feel like a lot of people are happy to take any upward trajectory because it feels like positive momentum. But if that positive momentum doesn't align with the career that you're designing for yourself very intentionally, it's also okay to walk away from that. It's also okay to raise your hand and say, that's not the role that I actually want to do. That doesn't fulfill me. That is not part of my fit.
I agree completely.
All right, let's talk about some tough choices. This one could actually have a series of questions. Have you ever walked away from a great job offer because you knew it wasn't the right fit? And what tipped the scales for you?
Yes, a few, actually. Well, oddly enough, before COVID, I turned down a really great opportunity because it was 100% remote. And I thought, that would be 100% remote. No, I need people. I need to be in an office. Boy, little did I know, huh?
Putting pants and shoes on is really not for everybody. It's
Not
okay.
for everybody. I have turned down quite a few opportunities over the years, partly because there was some kind of, and I can't put words to it completely, but there was something about it that just didn't feel right. And I know that's not super helpful, but I guess the big takeaway is just kind of listen to your intuition, because believe it or not, it's usually right. Your intuition, if you look back on those moments, if you're reflecting and you're like, ooh, I turned that voice off, I should have listened. I've had multiple occasions where I've had that voice and it was something either about the leadership or about, how the team spoke to me about their role, or you name it. It could have been the way I was greeted when I would go on site for an on-site interview. Like, sat in the corner and people walk by and don't nod, it could have been anything, but it was like, this doesn't feel like a warm environment or not the place for me, so.
I think that's really important. And it's okay to get to a stage of offer and to recognize even at that moment that it's not a fit. I think a lot of us feel like we owe the company something to have gone through the process for that long to get to a state where we're being made an offer. And then it feels like obligatory, right? Like we have to accept this because...
Absolutely, because
it's
you're like, I don't want to
yes
waste
someone who
everybody's time.
proposes.
Yeah, you're like, we've been dating for so long. I guess I have to say yes.
You can say no to a ring. I have. It's okay.
I will also call out... She's got a really pretty one now. I will call out one other thing that has happened to me a few times in my earlier career. I got to offer stage, and then they put the offer in front of me, and the salary was almost an insult. And I'm like, ooh, we are so far apart that this would be life-changing. Like, I would have to significantly alter my Diet Coke habit to be able to take this role. So what I learned then is I'm not bashful about it anymore. The first call with a recruiter, with whomever, I'm like, what is the salary range? Because I don't want to waste your time and I'm not going to waste mine, right? I want to be respectful, and I do it in a way I'm not a jerk about it, but I highly recommend everybody doing that, because that is for me one of the biggest disqualifying factors. If I get too far along and I get an offer and I'm like, boy, we're so far off. So don't be bashful about that.
And negotiate. I talk about this all the time. I have, for all the applicants that I have go through the process with me over the years, which will always make me super sad, is that 95% of the women who I make offers to do not negotiate. So to everyone in the room, I encourage you to do that, but to the women in particular, if you ever are made an offer for a role, please negotiate. And remember that everything is up for negotiation. The PTO, the equity, the way things are structured, anything if you're laid off, your packages, all of that. Signing bonuses, you can ask for anything. You won't always get a yes, I've learned that too, but you definitely will get a no if you don't ask. So
and
to that extent, don't leave money on the table.
And also don't worry, I mean, look, if you negotiate and the company turns their back on you, then just view that as it probably wasn't the place for you. I've heard this so many times from folks that I coach. I'm worried if I negotiate, they're not going to want me anymore. I really need this job. Don't be bashful, but just know your worth, know the salary range, know, are they paying in market for your region? Do they pay in market for the major cities? Know all of these things, what percentile they pay in, and leverage that, for a conversation.
So something that I do, and that you're actually part of, so you'll know what I'm talking about in a second, is when I get to a place where I'm evaluating a company and I feel like I have all the information in front of me that I need to make a decision, I don't make the decision without checking with my board of directors. Now, this could be my partner, my husband, it could be friends, peers. Maranda is definitely somebody who I would always consult and go to with anything that I have professionally in front of me. Am I making the right decision? Have I looked at everything? And oftentimes, somebody will see something that you didn't. Or you might be putting too much weight on something that somebody else would advise you maybe to not over-consider or over-index on. And so I just advise you all to not also, when you're sitting with these heavy decisions, to not make them by yourself. Because like I mentioned earlier, your judgment could be clouded for a multitude of reasons. And sometimes it's nice to go and ask somebody else
100%.
for that advice and guidance. But I would only ask people that you trust and that are part of your board. I wouldn't just ask anybody. But if you have those people that you can go to, I absolutely think that that is a good idea.
I agree, and I would add too, if you are sitting out there right now contemplating leaving where you are at, reach out to your board of advisors or close trusted individuals to have that conversation as well. When I was contemplating leaving my last role, I called Jay Nathan, I called Kristi, and there were a couple of other folks in there that I had conversations with because I wanted to hear the voice of reason because I was too emotionally in it to really understand if I was making the right decision about my current fit for where I was, tying it back to fit, right? And it's great to have those thought partners where there's no shame in the conversation. It's like, okay, let's just get to the facts and figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And sometimes they'll challenge you to ask questions you hadn't asked of the company or even of yourself. So it's just really a nice balance, especially when you're assessing, is this a good fit? All right, let's talk through transparency a little bit because I think transparency is important. In your experience, how honest are companies during the hiring process? And do they oversell, undersell, or hit the right balance?
It depends. Isn't that always the
I love
answer?
that answer.
Yeah, it depends. Here's the reality. Hiring is like selling. If you think about your life cycle for your customer, you have marketing where you're out there wooing and trying to bring the customers in, and then you have the sales cycle, which is the same as the interview that you're going through. And then you want to close the deal, right? So, and you close the deal, and then afterwards, that's HR, customer success, adoption, employee adoption, it all maps out. Interviewing candidates is incredibly similar. I am somebody who I don't want to be interviewing candidates all the time. I want to find somebody who is a right fit that will stay for a couple of years. So I lean on the side of being more transparent with candidates. There are probably multiple folks that know me who have interviewed with me, and I've told them straight up, I don't think this is the right place for you for these reasons. Or I've spelled out the problem statements and said, I want to make sure you're completely aware of what you're coming into so you can self-opt out if you don't want to, tackle this challenge. Not everyone is like that, to be clear. So you have to be really good about asking the right questions to surface, doing the back channels, reaching out to former employees, reading Glassdoor, even though you take it with a grain of salt. Sometimes it's real. Sometimes it's all like facts, right? So you take in multiple data points to formulate your opinion.
What are some questions you might add to your interviewing process if the company isn't being overly transparent?
Yeah, I ask, tell me about the last few people that left. Why did they leave? And I don't just ask that of the leadership. I ask that of the CSMs I'm talking to as well. So I see that you had a coworker that left. Do you know why they left? I dig in on, talk to me about your work-life balance. I don't know if I like the word work-life balance. That's up for debate. But, what does that look like? I ask questions about the culture, their growth. Do they have career paths? Like, I want to see, are you being invested in as a team member? How are you being invested in? Things like, I'm always looking for the things that I value. Do you have like a sense of belonging here? Are there ERGs? All of that kind of stuff, the stuff that I put a lot of value on. And those questions may be different for other people if you value different things. Like, I don't know, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point and something I just like you, we interview a lot of people.
Yes.
I don't see a lot of folks digging deeper into the tougher questions. Now, maybe it's because similar to you, I am overly transparent, almost to the extent that I try to scare people away, like they don't want to work for me or the company that I'm at. But I think it sets a good expectation for them, and I would rather somebody know what they're walking into than being blindsided and have a bad experience, like our customers sometimes. So, that said, how can you just make sure that as you're assessing fit, you're going through your process, what are your personal top 3? Like, these are the things that no matter what, if it checks these boxes, I feel good about this opportunity and I can move forward?
Yeah, so I've already covered all of like the culture, leadership, CEO layer. I have been part of a company that ran out of money a couple of times. And I actually spoke on this stage about leading through layoffs. I don't know, it was a year or two ago.
2 years.
2 years ago. So I also ask to see the financial statement. I'll sign an NDA, but I want to know, do we have money in the bank? How much money are we burning? How are we, hitting our goals? Talk to me about the salespeople. How many are hitting their quotas? I ask all of those types of questions because I just don't want to keep having to lay people off again and again. It just sucks the life out of me. And then also, it's a big flag for me if an organization doesn't set up time for me to meet with my team before I join. I'm like, what are you hiding? I want to get interaction. I want to understand who's on my team and, who I'm working with. And, so that's another thing that I'm always looking for. Are they willing to get me in front of as many people as possible so I can assess my fit for this organization, not just them assessing my fit for their organization. Like the organization is very aware that this is a mutual interview and not just them interviewing me. That's important.
Great. Well, listen, I think this gives you guys some things to think about as you maybe explore your next role in the future, and hopefully you can do your due diligence. I want to make sure that we're leaving some time for questions.
Yes.
So,
Oh, okay.
And the hands.
Yeah.
Okay. Take it in the front with 2 hands.
Your microphone went off.
I'm loud.
You could just lean in. Microphone problems.
Yeah.
Just go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So where do you draw the line between? And I think Kristi, you did a post on LinkedIn recently.
Keep going. Just keep going.
Recently about like the price of loyalty. So
Yes.
where do you draw the line between you love a company, you've grown immensely, you love the team, you're part of the leadership, you're building the company. That's my position today. I absolutely love where I'm at. And at the same time, if I move, I get like an immediate acceleration on my career. So where do you draw the line there? Like,
Yeah, that's a really good question, and just kind of repeat it. An individual loves the company, loves where they're at, but they realize they would get like a bump in their career, and I'm assuming it's comp and such as well.
an exposure.
In exposure if they were to move on. Look, that is a personal choice. I hate to answer it like that. I've made that choice multiple times over my life. I think the hardest company I ever left was Swiftly, which
Yeah.
that was so tough for me. I was there for 4 years, and CEO, if he watches this, Johnny, hearts to you. Amazing CEO, amazing company. It was just time for me to move on, and that was a hard decision. I always love pro-cons list and writing it all out. But I will tell you, as somebody who has done that a few times, the grass is not always greener. So it just, you have to figure out what you value most and then act from there. And I hate to, and then also really double down on why can't you continue to grow your career where you are? What's going, have those conversations with your leader if you have a trusted leader. And I know we don't have a ton of time, so we can take the conversation offline, but there's a lot to unpack there.
I'm going to take a slightly different position on the response there and just say my career has been designed very intentionally, and every move I've made, every company has looked very different intentionally to give me the best chance at having a multitude of experiences and growth and financial gain and titles. And so no 2 roles I've held have looked the same, and that is by design. That is not accidental. So for me, I've made decisions, sometimes prematurely, sure, but everything has been done with purpose. So similar to what Maranda said, yes, it's a personal decision, and maybe there is opportunity for you to grow in your current organization. If you feel like there is more growth to be had that aligns with a bigger picture for you personally and professionally, it's okay to make those changes. You don't owe any company, any leader, any business, your entire career.
That is true. Do we want to answer one more? Yeah. Sir? Is it a hard-hitting question or what?
It's a hard-hitting question.
Okay, let me hear it. Remember, I'm your ride to the airport. I'm just saying.
You said something that's a little off. Right, we've had this conversation. What's your, what have you found to be most impactful for doing back channeling, or like you maybe see something on Glassdoor that, yeah, I don't know, a lot of people, maybe they're just mad on the way out the door. But like, what's your process to not get caught surprised?
Well, first of all, I have been caught surprised a few times.
Me too. Very recently.
Yeah, same. What I tend to do is try to have as many of those conversations as I can to collect as many data points as I need to feel like I'm making the decision that's right for me. So I don't know if I have the perfect answer to that, but I will bring up Glassdoor reviews and say, hey, I saw this, this, and this. Has this been your experience? I will go to LinkedIn, put the company name in, pull up all former employees, see who I'm connected with, see who I have connections that are mutual with, and start reaching out and asking people if they'll get on for 5-10 minutes and talk to me about their experience at the company, and I'll cue it in as a confidential conversation, like, you know, they may or may not know me. But I just try to gather as many data points as I possibly can to help me inform my decision. It's not perfect, though, and I have definitely made the wrong calls multiple times, but I will tell you, I don't regret them. I learned so much, even at the ones where I made the wrong call.
We could probably take one more question if you have a couple hands up. Whoever the mic gets first.
So on the salary range question, I totally agree with making sure that the expectation is there. My question for you is, do you ask that question before they are able to ask what your expectation is of the
Do you
role?
know why?
Yeah.
Because I want to hear what they're
Right.
doing. I ask that question first, even in, I'm sure this is recorded and it's going to go live, but I even ask candidates before they ask me too, as a strategy.
Okay,
On
so
the
make
other
sure
way.
you ask the question first.
Ask first. Like, I legally, in most states, if not all states, cannot ask you what you make, but I can ask you what salary range you seek. But as a leader, that is like one of the first questions I ask. What is the salary range for this role?
And they will oftentimes try to
Well,
reverse
what's
that
the
back and
salary
say,
range you're
well, what are
seeking?
you looking for? And say, I'm happy to share that when you explain to me what the current range is. We'll see if it's in
Okay.
line.
Yeah.
You can kind of keep going back and forth until first person to answer loses.
That's true. Yeah. That's usually how it works in negotiations.
All right, we've time for one more question, and I think Andrea had her hand up several times, so if we can bring it to my friend right up in here. You've been so good. You raise your hand every single time.
Thank you. So my question is around teasing out when you're looking for your next role, if in fact CS is valued in an organization, and not just, oh, you know, is there a chief customer officer or VP of customer success at the table with the CEO, or, oh, have you invested in CSP tooling? But more specific questions to really uncover if it's real or not. And
Yeah.
because I've been in organizations where I feel like other executive members don't get it.
Yep.
And if you want to build and you want to make impact, like that is a must-have.
100%. I totally agree with you, and I'm sure Kristi has a lot of thoughts on this as well. But I will say one of the things that I ask immediately is, do you have a CS leader that presents at every board meeting? And what does the board care about? Talk to me about the financial goals and what are the levers that you view that are driving those financial goals. And I'm listening for, well, CS upsells, CS renewals. Usually, I hate to say it and be so blunt like this, but usually if you're driving revenue, you're more valued in an organization, and whether that's directly or indirectly. So that's usually how I suss it out to see if I can hear the narrative that tells me that it's more than just lip service.
I'm going to go a different route. Yes, I agree. But when I'm meeting with cross-functional peers, if I'm talking to product, I'm going to ask them, what were the last 3 customer-driven product features that you pushed into production, and what were the driving decisions behind those? I'm going to ask sales, I'm gonna ask, what kind of feedback do you take back from the customer success team to enhance and modify your process to set better expectations? I'm gonna go back to my leadership team. I'll ask similar questions like Miranda does about the financial responsibilities and the KPIs tied to us. I might talk back to finance and ask how we're viewed from their sheet, right? So I'm gonna go deeper in questions specifically to understand my cross-functional peers, decisions that they are making in their functions that are driven by the insights that are coming from my team.
You can also ask, if you remember what Jay Nathan just put up here, do we sit in COGS or do we sit in sales and marketing expenses? That really will tell you as well how you're viewed in the organization. If you're a COG, you're always going to be fighting for budget, fighting for investments. It's just a fact. And I've successfully gotten my CS org moved to sales and marketing expenses a few times, and it just changes the narrative. So it's another addition you can add on, just figure out where you sit on the budget.
The behavioral style questions will give you good insight though into how each of these teams behaves in the day-to-day and how they really take what it is that you and your teams are doing into their organizations. And if that's not happening at all, or if they're saying, oh yeah, we don't do that today, but that's a good idea, or it's on our list, it's always on a list. If it's on a list, it's not happening, so don't believe them. But this will give you really good insight into like what's in practice today. And for me, honestly, I don't need yeses across the board or examples on every single thing I ask, but I have to know that there's a strong desire and a willingness to want to do those things.
Totally agree.
Because they could be waiting for a leader to drive that. So it could be that these things aren't happening for a reason, and I could be that change agent. But how receptive are they to making those changes? So that said, we are at time, but appreciate everyone. So thank you guys so much.
Hey, Ari, take a picture. Quickly. We're going to get
so slow.
So slow, Ari. Just disappointing. So disappointing. Did you get it? Arm out? All right. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.